The Body in the Apartment, a Jazzi Zanders Mystery. Book 4 by Judi Lynn. Narrated by Devon Sorvery. Chapter 1. Jazzi had mixed feelings. Ansel's older brother, Radley, was moving out after staying with them for 3 months. She'd enjoyed getting to know him, and Ansel had enjoyed having him around. But it would be nice to have the house to themselves again. And it's not like Radley was moving back to Wisconsin. He'd found an apartment in the same building where Donovan, his work supervisor, lived. He'd still pop in every weekend for the family Sunday meal, probably more often if he got hungry. As he stalked through the kitchen on his way upstairs, he stopped to sniff. "What's in the oven?" So much like his brother, a man who loved food. At 6'1", Radley wasn't as tall as Ansel, and his build was sinewy instead of pure muscle, but he was almost as good-looking, and he was more outgoing, making friends easily. "Beef enchiladas. I made an extra pan for you to take with you. You can keep the glass dish. You might need it." Radley came to give her a hug. "If I bring it back empty, will you fill it for me again?" Yep, he and Ansel had a few things in common. She waved him away. "Dream on, but you're always welcome to drop in." He gave her a quick kiss on the cheek before tromping up the steps. Inky and Marmalade chased after him. Her cats thought moving day was a new kind of entertainment. When Radley had come for her and Ansel's November wedding, he'd liked River Bluffs so much, he left his family's dairy farm and started training at the furnace and air conditioning company where Thane worked. Thane was her sister Olivia's live-in boyfriend. The two had hit it off so well, he became a regular at Thane's Saturday night poker parties, along with Donovan and Walker, Thane's BFF. None of this set well with Bain, Ansel and Radley's oldest brother. Their dad was furious. When Radley called to tell Bain he'd signed a 1-year lease on an apartment here, Bain went ballistic. But what could he do about it? Radley didn't want to milk cows for the rest of his life. Jazzi glanced at the kitchen calendar. The time had flown so fast. She couldn't believe the day had come for Radley's move, February 12th, and 5 days after that, on the 17th, Franny's baby was due. She, Ansel, and Jared flipped houses together. Her cousin was so nervous about Franny's pregnancy, he walked on pins and porcupine quills. Every time his phone rang at the fixer-upper they were working on, he jumped for it. Ansel and Radley had taken bets on whether the baby would come before or after Jared handed the buyer the keys to the finished house. It was almost done, so Ansel, who'd bet on before, teased Franny to get busy and push the baby out. Franny was ready. Big and uncomfortable, she swore this would be their last kid. No more. A loud thunk came from the basement, and Ansel grunted. "Are you okay?" Jazzi went to the door to hold it open. "This bench isn't heavy. I thought I could manage it myself, but it's awkward." Jazzi went to grab an end and help him carry it up. She studied it and shook her head. "It's an old garden bench. I hope he paints it if he's using it in his living room." Ansel laughed. "I promised to help him sand it and give it a coat of glossy blue. Either that or he'd use it as is. My brother doesn't care too much about matching furniture." "He loves our house." She scanned the big open kitchen and sitting area they'd lovingly redone. Ansel followed her gaze, as proud of their house as she was. They'd remodeled it with entertaining in mind. Why wouldn't he? But if my brother doesn't marry a woman with the gift of decorating, we'll be sitting on hodgepodge couches and chairs for a long time. "I heard that," Radley called, coming to join them. He set down the 2 wooden chairs he'd carted from the attic. "And you're right." He nodded to his brother. "Let me help you carry that to your van." Jazzi went to toss the salad she'd serve with the enchiladas. Glancing out the kitchen windows, she frowned at the white expanse of snow covering their backyard. When she and Ansel had tied the knot before Christmas, they'd intended to go on their honeymoon the first week of February, flying to some place tropical during the Midwest winter. But then Radley had moved in with them, and Jared's baby was due, so they'd decided they didn't want to leave. They'd figure out a time to honeymoon once everything settled down. Jazzi sighed. Life didn't always go according to plan. The stove buzzer rang, and she took the 2 pans of enchiladas out of the oven, putting them on the stainless steel countertop to cool. While the men carted Radley's things to Ansel's van, she'd opted to stay out of their way and cook. When they returned to grab the small wooden table Radley had found with the chairs in the attic, they came to inspect her work. The cheese is all melted and gooey. Radley reached to snitch a bite, but she slapped his hand. It's too hot. You'll burn your fingers and your mouth. Yours will cool enough to eat on the way to your apartment. He snitched a piece anyway, and winced when he swallowed it. Have I told you that Ansel did a good job when he married you? Thanks for putting up with me so long. It took me till now to buy a used van and find a place to live. The used van rankled her. It was tacky that your dad didn't send you the money he got when he sold your old car. Radley shrugged. It wasn't worth much. He used the money to pay for extra help until he and Bain got used to the new workload since I'm not there. Right. He'd kept the money to punish Radley. She put her hands on her hips. Your dad wouldn't even send you your clothes. No loss there. Most were barn clothes. I had 2 good outfits for when we went to town, which wasn't often. Radley was being more generous than his idiot father deserved. As far as she was concerned, Ansel's dad and brother were self-absorbed tyrants. Until Radley had gotten his first paycheck, all he had to wear were the clothes he'd packed to come for their wedding. He didn't even have much of a savings because the farm hadn't paid that well lately. Bain had kept most of the profits in an account to cover expenses. I think serfs got treated better than you. Your dad and Bain had enough money for their new vehicles. Radley's crooked smile blossomed. You're a great friend to have in my corner. She waved him away. His blue eyes were twinkling, and he was enjoying himself too much. Do you have everything yet? I only have 1 small load to go. Jared drove to Walker's to get a recliner he's getting rid of. Thank heavens he decided to get a new one in his lower level. They'll meet me at 3F. She pressed her lips together. You're sure not starting out with much. Are you kidding? You're even giving me the queen-size air mattress you bought when the house was too full of people at your wedding. And Thane's donating an old chest of drawers from his bachelor days he's kept in his garage. Jazzi tried to picture the hodgepodge of used furniture and shook her head. Call me when you're ready to leave, and I'll grab my coat. This February had been mild compared to last year. So far, no ice. Lots of snow, but the city kept the streets cleaned, salted, and sanded. The stove buzzer rang again, and Radley paused before grabbing his clothes. He turned to see what she brought out of the oven this time, then came back to get a closer look. Is that a pie? She put it on a trivet to cool. Could be. Ansel told me you loved cherry, so I made 2 of them, 1 for us, 1 for you. He watched her take out the second one and turn off the oven. You love to feed people, don't you? That, and I like spoiling them if I can. She'd gotten that gene from Gran. She'd spent many a weekend at her grandma's house, learning to cook. She wouldn't have even known how to boil eggs if she had to rely on her mother. Mom and Olivia would rather shop and eat out. Radley picked off a small piece of pie crust. You can spoil me any time you want to. With a laugh, she shooed him away. You'd better get the rest of your things, or Ansel will be in here wondering what you're up to. The cats ran, 1 on each side of him, as he climbed the stairs one last time. George, Ansel's pug, guarded the house from his dog bed, with his eyes shut, as usual. She went to look out the window to see what Ansel was doing, just in time to see a black pickup park in front of the open garage. Its door flew wide, and Bain got out. Oh, fudge. He started to the kitchen door, hands knotted into fists, his lips pulled into a snarl. Ansel yelled and started after him. Hey, wait! What are you doing here? Bain reached the door first and banged on it. Jazzi waited until Ansel had caught up with him before opening it. They spilled into the kitchen together, both of them looking